Do. Then maybe I should do it the other direction next time. Record first and then go live. But here we go. Thank you so much for coming on again and showcasing something that most people consider a weed. So, um, a beautiful weed, but well, unless you're, I don't know. I think it's some lawn people's enemy because they want to get rid of every little thing that's not grass. So,
Mm,
dandelions.
yes. Thank you, friend. It's good to see you. Um, yes. So dandelions have so many amazing uses, but also just benefits. They're just packed full of vitamins. Um, so, and they're also, one of the first sources of food, um, not only for pollinators, but for us. um,
Well,
and
where
right,
I live, they grow all winter, so I can literally pick dandelions when, you know, in the middle of winter to get that, if in
oh,
the past when I couldn't get greens from Arizona and California, I could just go out to the yard and get greens.
yeah, absolutely. A lot of times they will still be perfectly fine under the snow. Um, and yeah, available pretty much the whole year long. And all of the parts of the dandelion are edible except maybe like the floof, the seed. I currently don't have any uses for the dandelion seed. That's not to say that there aren't any. Um,
So typically, what part do you use? Just the greens?
the greens are the most commonly used for food. Um, however, in recent years, dandelion flowers are incredibly popular. It's a great thing to do with kids, um, and um, of all ages. But just collecting dandelion flowers, I actually have a bunch of dandelion flowers in my basket. Here, I'll just pull them out. They
You
are
had said
getting,
beforehand that you went on a native, like wildcrafting walk and taught people how to find stuff.
yes, this morning I led a group of about a dozen people at one of my county parks, and we just did general plant identification for spring edibles mostly. And yeah, after that walk, I grabbed a couple handfuls of dandelion greens, and then also a couple handfuls of flowers. Um, and so the buds, before they open up, you can pick those little unopened buds and you can turn them into something similar to a caper just by adding some vinegar and spice. You can pickle them. Uh, but then once they open up, um, you can use them whole if you batter and fry them. That is one way to fix almost any edible flour that most people will enjoy if you batter and fry them. Um, but what I like to do with them is pull all of the florets out. Each one of these is its own
And
little.
that's where if you can get a whole bunch of kids involved, it's
Yes.
very, sit down and talk with each other and like, chat and play because it's maybe not tedious but laborious, right?
Yes, yes, it's fabulous. Yes, doing dandelion flowers or violets, that's so good with kids because yeah, they can pick a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, so this green part on the bottom is the most bitter part, and so if you just remove all of the little florets, each one of these is its own little floret, uh, from that base. Um, get like a good handful of fluffy yellow, but not white fluff. Um, uh, a pile there. Then you can season it any way you like, and then add a binder like an egg or an egg substitute like flax or something like that, and make little patties and fry them up, saute them. You could
What
make
I
them
like to do is
or
get
fry
a
them.
little fancy and basically make a simple syrup with them and use that as the flavor is very, very delicate, but it's so unique.
Yeah, it
And
does have a very honey-like flavor, and that's because of the amount of pollen. And that pollen is, as long as you're not allergic to dandelion pollen, which you would probably know if you were, that pollen is very delicious and very flavorful. And that's why, yeah, many people call dandelion jelly dandelion honey. You can make dandelion honey as in like dandelion syrup. A lot of people do say like dandelion, anytime you use it to make something like that, it tastes like honey. Well, that's because of the amount of pollen.
well, back in the hills of Tennessee, there was a lot of slow sipping dandelion wine people.
Yes, yes. So that would be also
When
the
you got really
flour.
fancy, yeah.
That
So,
would be also the flour. Yeah. Lots of sugar added to that.
right.
Um,
Now, I grew up, dandelions are just absolutely everywhere.
yeah,
It's in the cities, it's considered a weed and people spray to kill it. It's very prominent pretty much everywhere.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I would say that if you see an area that doesn't really have very many of them, or they might just be like at the edges of the area, then that's probably a place that we wouldn't harvest from. It's probably been sprayed to keep them out. Yeah, so that's a good point that when you don't see them plentiful, don't harvest them. It's not a good space for them to grow, and as we know, they can grow anywhere. Like, they'll grow out of the concrete, but do we want to harvest them from concrete? No, not really, because what are they taking in as their nutrients, right?
oh,
Um,
I've definitely seen one growing through the crack of a sidewalk, just one dandelion, the yellow flower there, and you're just like, civilization is falling.
so you want to kind of think about like as far as foraging goes, you want to and these common flowers like dandelion or violet or something that's in your yard that you're wanting to use. So just think about like where the energy is in the plant. So right now, this is the time to get those greens because as soon as they do send that little bud up and that bud starts to open up, that's where all the energy goes to is that flower and those greens, then that's why they get bitter. They'll get more bitter as they get older.
So
Um,
tender, fresh greens right in the spring are just packed full of energy and are not bitter.
yeah. So dandelions are a high vitamin C green. So it's really great if you can add them just a little bit in your salad here and there, just to have a little bit of that raw green. Um, Vitamin C. It's not that you can't that the food loses all of the vitamin C, but when you add heat to vitamin C, it does change and lower that concentration. So raw is going to always have the most vitamin C. Now, other things like all of the minerals that are in these greens, I have mine uh, in my little sifter. Um, I was all of those greens have so many uh minerals, and the minerals are a little bit harder for our bodies to access. They're a little less bioavailable. And so we've talked about this before, where when you're eating greens, dark leafy greens of any kind, any brassica family, any lettuce family, any of these um, dandelion greens or collards or whatever, add acid to it. The reason that our bodies enjoy so much to have a salad with vinegar or lemon juice is because when you change that pH, more of those nutrients are available for your body to absorb. And so, just like when we're cooking collards or mustards, which maybe people are a little bit more familiar with, typically you're going to want to maybe blanch them. That will take some of the bitterness down. I don't have to do that with collards, but mustards I do mostly, you know? But with dandelion greens, I think today I'm just going to quickly blanch my greens and then put them in my skillet. So I'm just
But
gonna
like you said, in the spring, you don't have to do it as much. I mean, I remember growing up in the wild, we were very poor. We didn't have access to fresh greens through the winter very much, but always growing in the South, Tennessee, Alabama, um, dandelions grow through the winter. And so mom would go out and come back with a basket, but I do remember them always just being horribly intensely green, if you want to call it, in the winter, and just remembering how enjoyable the spring greens were. Part of it was we'd have the yellow flowers, we'd get to pick those and put them on top. We called it like the wild cheese. And we
yeah,
just sprinkled the yellow on the top of our salad. And then we'd also go and find the little violets. I think they are. They're like little edible purple flowers
yeah.
and put them on there. And I don't know, it just was refreshing and good feeling. Like you could feel the nutrition just come into our bodies.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. And dandelions are a cleanser for so many systems, actually. So, as far as like herbal medicine goes, dandelion, dandelion greens are very specific to the urinary system and tonifying and um, um, just supporting a healthy urinary system. But then the roots have an affinity for the liver and it cleanses the liver.
So after being cooped up all winter, come out and have some dandelion tea and dandelion salad, and you have yourself uh, whoop-de-doo. Spring has come. Your body is getting alive again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes more sense, like just biologically, for us to do a cleanse in the spring rather than in January when we're like eating the heaviest, most filling things that we can. Now, when we're just starting to get a lot of fresh greens and just getting that urge to do that, our bodies just naturally know that that's what we want. These are the best. Uh, these are super little. These will taste great in a salad, just the way it is, you know. I wouldn't ever be able to eat a salad of raw dandelion greens only, but adding them in is fabulous. And then I have like some longer taller ones, but not much bigger than this for my and as far as concerns about picking the wrong thing, I mean just so some identifying features are like the teeth. So it is the dent de lion. The teeth of the leaves is one of the identifying features. Oftentimes they'll have red down at the stem part. Um, they do grow in clusters. And when you pull that cluster out, there will be a long taproot. Not really a whole lot of little spindly roots. Um, and and there is one plant that looks very, very similar. And usually I find that maybe it has maybe a little bit more rounded top and maybe a little less toothing, but um, it's chicory and it's actually in the same family. So, and it's also just an edible green. It's dandelion's cousin. And if you accidentally throw that in, same as a dandelion. It's a little bit bitter. That bitterness is really good for you. That bitterness is stimulating your digestive system. So,
And so I
um,
know usually when wildcrafting, you don't want to like wipe out the area. Like you mentioned, pulling it out with the roots.
yeah, yeah,
Usually when I'm picking wildcrafting, I don't want to pull out the roots because I don't want to kill the plant. But dandelions seem to have so many, and then whatever little bits of roots you leave behind seem to grow a new one. I don't know if that's true.
yeah. Each one of these seeds makes a new plant. So,
Oh, so when you blow on it,
so uh, I say we're talking about dandelions here. You can dig up as many dandelions as you want, and you will still not harm the dandelion population
that's
ever.
probably why the people who have like the pristine yards absolutely hate them because there's no way they can possibly completely and totally eradicate them because they are profusely powerful. And, we have to realize that they're not a weed, that they are part of our ecosystem and part of what we need. Now, I've only ever picked them wild.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, I let them come up in my garden, and then
but someone mentioned you can buy them at the store. Like, I don't
right.
think of wild greens
I
as
sent you
something you
that
can buy.
picture. I sent you a picture. It's from Natural Grocers. The dandelion greens right now at Natural Grocers are like almost $5, 4.59 for a a bunch about the size that I have here, except they're much bigger. And they've been cultivated so that they're a less bitter variety too.
Okay.
I mean, okay, cool, but these are free.
Well, that's
And
like, I mean, everything. I have tons and tons of gumballs in my yard, those prickly, nature's Legos, and people buy them on the internet. I was just like, just come and clean out my yard, so I can walk through it. So, yes, one person's, yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and I've got a little bit of water boiling on the stove. I just have like a little handful of greens for myself, just because that's enough for me. Um, so I would do like a handful for each person that you're trying to serve. Um, and I'm just gonna toss everything into my boiling water.
Well,
Uh,
when
they
I grew up, we would tend to
they
eat
boil.
them two ways. We like you say, do a quick steam and then put them over like rice or beans. So basically, you have beans, rice, and greens as a meal, or we would do like I would call it a frittata, stir fry vegetables. You put a couple eggs, and then you just drop a handful of the greens on the top, put the
Yeah,
lid on it, and just quick steam it, and then it just basically had greens on the
yeah.
top of the egg.
I love greens with eggs. Absolutely. Anytime. Yeah. With a quiche or with just fried or scrambled or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, with the quiche would be nice, just that add texture and flavor. You wouldn't need very much, and I mean, for people who don't eat wild greens very much, they can be very, very bitter. We're used to most of our greens having having next to no taste. Like,
Yeah. I wanted to mention, like, when I drop these in, they get really vibrant green too. Like, let me try to they get really, really bright. Just amazing and beautiful and
that's true. They go from like a dark green to like really, really bright green, which
yeah.
I
Lindsay,
I
you
think
could
my
save.
mistake is I always tended to boil them too much, and they're like, the stereotypical spinach. If you want to make a cup of spinach, start with like 2 pounds,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
don't, you know, just
Yeah.
lightly steam it. Don't cook it down because they will.
So I'm just doing like 2 minutes is pretty good for just a little blanch. If you're steaming, you could do 3 or 4 minutes on a steam. Uh, yeah, and I'm just gonna run some cold water over them. And
So I just wanted to mention, Or and I have a tendency to save all our scraps and throw it in the freezer and make vegetable soup. What I started saving was the water that I have cooked vegetables in, be it potato or let's say that water, and I will just put it in a plastic cup or container and throw it in the freezer. And when it comes time to make my vegetable broth with all my scraps, I'll just throw those blocks of water that I use to either blanch or steam, whatever vegetable, just to not throw any of the nutrients away.
oh yeah, that's another level of yeah,
Lulu,
Frugality.
that's a little higher level than even me.
scrappy.
But no,
Well,
I'm
you
just
have to
kidding.
have room in your freezer, and Or I know
Well,
you
I
do.
would say the using the broth to make the new broth is beyond me, but I have done what you talk about, where I'll freeze them actually in little cubes, and then when it says, you need some
So
broth, you know, so
I'm gonna take these blanched greens and just toss them into my heated skillet here. It's gonna sizzle because water. Um, don't have any oil in there yet. I'm just gonna wait. That's my preference. It's not necessary, but I do like to I'm gonna cook a little bit of this water off of it and then add a little oil. Some people don't oil at all. That's totally fine. You don't need it with this. A little salt and oil sometimes, can increase the flavor enough that something that doesn't taste good to you the first time you try it would taste good if you had a little salt and fat to it. One thing that I talked about earlier, adding a little bit of vinegar to this is a good idea. One, because it would take away any of that leftover bitterness that would be there. But two, and more importantly, is it's going to make those minerals bioavailable for your body to absorb more from your food. And then you don't have to eat as many dandelion greens.
so cooking it still does reduce it, but if you add the vinegar, it releases it. So whether you have it raw or cooked, adding vinegar or lemon to it
Yeah.
releases the minerals for your body to be able to digest it better.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
I've
So
been teaching
okay.
that one since I was in Carbondale. That lesson about changing the pH, adding that acid and allowing those brassicas, those dark leafy greens to have full release of their many nutrients. Like you know, um we know that they have a lot of nutritional value, and a lot of people just don't know that one little secret that helps um, to really get those out of your food. I'll have a little bit of grass, I see, but
So I wonder. So I wonder if the old woodsmen who went around like slow sipping their whiskey and eating the wild greens were having a good balanced diet there. Like I guess whiskey probably wasn't the right word. Hooch. So, but
so at this point, I can add a little bit of oil. Um, I use avocado. I don't cook with olive oil, but I love olive oil for its benefits on cold things. Um, I'm adding a little bit of that, and then this is where you can just get creative. If you want to season them, you can, but these are great just by themselves. Add the oil or don't. add some salt, I would, or don't. Add some vinegar. You don't have to if you can't stand it. You can spice them up. Make some like hot chili oil and sprinkle that over the top. Or just put some dried spices in, some paprika and some and garlic powder, onion powder. Like the spec it's wide, it's broad world out there for seasoning your greens, right?
Yeah, well,
But
so when Sherman opened his Native American restaurant in Minneapolis, pre-colonial food, people hated it because it was so unflavored, they called it, because we're so used to over flavored stuff. Basically, whatever we cook has no flavor, and so therefore we always put flavor on it. So, if you buy typical greens that were grown in California, cooked picked prematurely, doesn't have much minerals, and then shipped across the nation, there's not much nutrition and flavor to it. So you have to add seasoning. So he actually started providing, like you said, hot chili oil, like different flavors that people could add to it. But
yeah.
the
So
goal was still like
You're
try to
muted.
stay with the eat the food and try to taste the actual food without always putting flavor on it.
I have a couple of ramps that I had taken a few to the walk with me for people to try them. And so I just had a couple of ramps and I thought I'd throw those in. My dandelion greens, because I added that little bit of oil, they're now getting a little crispy. I like that. Some people want it very soft and more spinach-like. That's personal preference. Cook them as long as you like it. Mine are done. Like it's that fast. It's that simple. I will definitely, sorry, I'm reaching over for my salt. I'll definitely put a little salt in mine. And then also I'm getting my apple cider vinegar out.
Well, you taught us how to make apple cider vinegar on a past show. So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
yeah,
everybody, yeah, anybody who
save
loves.
all your apple scraps and make your own apple cider vinegar. So
So I just use my cap.
yeah,
Usually the cap is like just the right amount somehow.
so good deal. But so do you have any tricks for foraging in the city? You said basically don't go for like lawns that only have a few dandelions because they probably spray.
So you're going to want to avoid high dog traffic areas. You're going to want to avoid railroads, golf courses, cemeteries, and then roadside is really going to be up to your discretion. How active is the road? Um, how do the plants look around it, right?
And
So
especially in the spring here where they're popping up real quick, you could probably get it before many cars have passed by on some rural or back roads. And
yeah.
then how close to the road, right? The further away from the road is probably better.
So this morning,
I just want to show I have a little bowl and the dandelion greens are so pretty and
uh, they're a little bit crispy.
Oh man, I heard the crispy to it. I
They're
mean, I've actually bought like a bag of toasted kale before. I was just like, I
yeah,
wanted to try it.
it's so
And
similar. It's so
yeah,
similar. Really good flavor. So on the walk this morning, someone asked me a question that I really liked, and um, oh, it was about asparagus. They're like, asparagus usually is growing by the roadside, it's by those fence lines, it's by the agricultural runoff, you know? And like, what do I think about that? And I think that my I like to take in the surrounding. And if I think, okay, ultimately it comes down to, are the benefits of eating this asparagus, are the benefits of eating this greater than the risk of ingesting something, right? And then we can also think about the fragility of plants compared to the fragility of me, right? And so if that asparagus is growing there, then I feel like there is not a ton of harmful substance there because it's able to grow. And so
And honestly, we all eat modern food from the store, and every one of those foods have an allowable level of poison on them.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
That the government has determined that there's an allowable level, which they have no idea if you eat the same amount of poison for 30 years, does it cause cancer or not? Who
Yeah.
knows? But every food that we buy has an allowable level of poison on it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, organic does not allow, but they still have allowable levels of certain things, right? No matter what you buy.
So I think that concludes, I mean, as far as cooking dandelion greens, right?
Yeah.
And they are just amazing. Just really, really good for you. Yeah.
And if people want to reach out, you do have a website, Herb AN Forage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one words, urban forage. So no D, no D in between.
There you go. And thank you very much for sharing this. My mom literally sent me a text early this morning. Come and pick as much as you want from my yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, sounds like you need to rest.
any final questions, words?
Yes, I looked up some of the history, and the dandelion was not in North America until the Mayflower came over, and they brought it over for medicinal purposes, and there it became a common plant here.
Actually, a lot of our plants are exotic. I mean, we're brought over thistles, we're brought over as a protein source to grow and feed animals.
Sure.
Kudzu, the same thing. So we have plants that are taking over, and in some cases are very much what do they call it? An exotic,
Invasive versus non-native.
Right, invasive versus non-native. Now, dandelions are not considered invasive plants.
Right.
They are not. They are a non-native plant, but they have been here that long. And yeah, plantain, similar, just they call that.
Another interesting fact about our weeds is that they saved a lot of people from starvation during the Depression.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, growing up, I grew up very poor, and we had basically a no-till garden where my mom would go out into the woods and pick wild stuff and then replant it. And the goal was to basically have a garden that grew all the wild stuff we liked without having to cultivate it, right? And so that was mom's. I mean, you looked at it, it just looked like a wild jungle, but she'd go in there and come out with, a basket of 10 different greens and herbs and wild onions, and and that would be a meal. So and a free meal and a good meal, and good for your mouth and good for your body. And I don't know if I'd stretch it all the way to the soul, but maybe a little bit. So
well, I will say that the flower, I didn't mention working with the flower as far as like herbal medicine goes, but the flower is often It's a challenge to work with it because you have to work with it fresh. There are very few flowers that have to be worked with fresh, and you just can't do anything with dried, right? Why? Because it turns to floof immediately. It's ready to spread its seed almost immediately. So it's usually used externally as an infused herbal oil, and it's so hard to do it. Usually you have to wilt them a little bit at least, and then sometimes I will add like an alcohol intermediary where I'll soak them in alcohol first, so that it kind of pulls some of the moisture out. The issue with putting fresh things into oil is that your oil will go rancid. So many times, half of the times that I've tried, it's not good. So, but energetically, these flowers contain all of the energy of the sun, and they contain brightness and happiness and lightness and renewedness and rebirth. And
So right after depressive winter, should I just go out and literally pick a yellow flower and just eat it? Or is that too, the
yeah,
green bottom part you said is bitter. Like,
yeah, the petals. I mean, I will eat the petals. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
but not just bite the whole top off and eat the whole thing?
When we're talking about energetics, it's actually more of it's more like when we have aromatherapy, right? So that smell of those dandelions with that pollen and that little bit of sweetness like honey, that is stimulating your brain and energizing you
You
through.
know what you just reminded me of? Taking the little honeysuckle and then you break off the little tip and suck out the little bit of honey water in the center. Oh my God, that's just like you just triggered a childhood memory. Well, not too childhood. I have I have a section of honeysuckle in my, um place downtown where I leave it there so every spring I can have a few honeysuckle flowers. So,
Yeah.
all
So
right. Good
yeah,
note.
flowers are a little bit different to work with, but they do have an incredible value. So that herbal oil is very relieving to soreness and aching, and also just heals like uh, trauma, as in like being like if you get bumped.
Like
Um,
a bruise or a what? Yeah. So
yeah, and
good
just kind
deal.
of, yeah, uh, it's good to.
My mom used to make like a thing with plantain and the she just ground up the whole head of the dandelion and plantain to make like kind of a mush, or you just like put both of them in your mouth, chew it up, and you put it on a
Yeah,
bee sting or a bruise, or it pulls out the the poison and makes it heal quicker. So, I
yeah,
mean, I'm running around as a kid. I get stung by a bee. I grab a piece of plantain, chew it up, put it on there, and it pulls the pain out and heals
yep,
it. So, I don't,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
good
Yeah.
deal. Thank you so much for bringing some good memories back. I'm gonna wrap this up here.
Okay. Yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you.
I got one more button here in a second.